Adult Bible study is a great thing, even for me, supposedly the one who's teaching and facilitating the conversations. The Adult Bible Study has been working on a book by John Dominic Crossan called Jesus, a Revolutionary Biography. John Dominic Crossan is generally recognized as one of the greatest scholars of the New Testaments in particular. This book has taught me a new word, commensality. It comes from the Latin, com, as in with or sharing, and mensa, which is Latin for table. So it's to share a table, to be at table with others. Now, when Crossan first used that word in the book, I venture to say that all of us in the study thought that he was being a little academically show-off-y. But honestly, he uses the word so much through the book that we came to see it as a useful term, and even started using it in our conversations with one another. So if you ever hear somebody saying commensality, you can bet that they're probably a participant in the Adult Bible Study. Well, you could go home and try it at home too. I suppose at lunch, when you're eating lunch with somebody else, you can say, "We're being very commensal right now." Now, Crossan hammers home the point that one of the most revolutionary things about Jesus was his commensality. His willingness to eat with everyone, with anyone, with all people. No wonder, then, that the table becomes the central formative act of the church post-resurrection. Indeed, Jesus, the resurrected one, did not take his disciples back to the cross. Nor did he make them develop a process of pilgrimage to the hill where the cross was. The early symbol of the church, in fact, was not a cross at all. It was a fish. And the early Jesus followers gathered for common meals as their form of being together, of community building, and of worshiping the now risen one. So no wonder for the early church the cross was not even used as a symbol, rather this fish that was that prominent marker of early Christians up to the time of Constantine. This fish shows up in so many of our biblical stories, both pre- and post-resurrection. The feeding miracles, stories of fishing, even the resurrection appearances will have fish. The theology of crucifixion and resurrection and what that means would take a long time to develop. But early followers of Jesus knew that eating together is what they were called to do. They were called to eat together and be in each other's company. There they remembered, consecrated, created community, nourished spirits, celebrated the incoming, inbreaking realm of God. Today's story, no less, two Jesus followers were on their way to Emmaus. Who are the two? Cleopas is named, but no name is given for the other one. Recently, my Twitter friend, okay, that's the first time I've said that in a sermon, a Twitter friend. My Twitter friend, Tracy Rhodes, posed the question on Twitter, who do you think the other person was? And there was quite a debate. The overwhelming response was that most people think it was actually Cleopas's wife who was traveling with him. And that makes sense, as women were so often unnamed and uncounted in scriptures. I argued, however, that the other one was you or me. Yes, for today, let's just say the two on the road are you and me. And that we are talking about matters of the heart and faith and lived experiences following Jesus and the miracles, doubts, sadness, wonder. We're talking about it all as we're wandering the journey of life. And then a stranger shows up, a threat perhaps, or just somebody visiting the church, I don't know. But we are bidden to welcome that one, lest we entertain an angel unaware. And this stranger engages us in conversation, in questions, reminding us, enforcing ideas that we know somehow but not have fully owned, suggesting different ways to look at what is already before us. The stranger helps us to engage in a conversation we've been engaged in already, but in a new way with some fresh insights. And it being late, we invite the stranger for a meal, or maybe just the stranger joins us at the communion table. And taking bread and blessing it and breaking it and giving it, in those moments, the stranger is recognized as Jesus. The recognition is a heartwarming knowledge, recognition that comes from the heart as much as from the mind. And pay attention to this word, to recognize. It's to cognate, to think about, with the re prefix, which implies that it is something that we have perceived before, but somehow has finally coalesced for us. Something that can be identified from past experience. And the Greek word has that similar sort of meaning to it. It's epignosko, and gnosko is the same root as gnosis, or gnosis, which is knowledge, and then epi is, again, a prefix. So even in the Greek, it has this idea of a kind of coalescing of recognition, pieces finally coming together that one had been working on for a while. There's a vigor to this occurrence here, a vitality to the recognition that comes amidst the conversation and the meal, the study of Scripture, the fellowship, all of the wonderment and the sharing, all that culminates at the table where Jesus eats with us and is present with us. I begin to wonder whether Jesus' post-resurrection movements, half of those stories being about food, I begin to wonder whether what is more critical for us in understanding Jesus is not to spend so much time wondering about the meaning of the suffering, death, and resurrection, but that we should spend more time paying attention to the eating that Jesus does, to the table, to the common meal, to the eating together as a place of healing, hope, enduring presence, and recognition. Commensality came straight from Jesus' heart, eating with others, eating together with anyone, everyone, with the very least and last one. And the heart knows, yes, the heart knows that the table is where we find Jesus, in the cup and in the bread, in the company that gathers around the table, in the conversation and in the nourishment, in the remembering and in the celebration, in the you and the me of it. Yes, at the table is where we recognize Jesus. It requires no advanced theology of the cross. It simply requires that we eat with one another, with all others, with anyone who shows up. And that is the heart of Jesus' work and ministry with us.